Appreciate y'all coming. Sorry for the delay, but this will be a call to order of the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting. This is a special meeting. Today is November the 19th, 2024, and it is 3:35. We'll have a moment of silence. Mr. Root, would you lead us in our invocation?
Pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, thank you for this rain and the use you'll put it to. I pray that, like the rain, it waters the ground and causes things to flourish, that this meeting also would do the same, that you would sow seeds of your wisdom and your guidance, your planning, and that the county would produce good fruit for its citizens by your guidance and your wisdom. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Durham, will you lead us in our pledge?
Sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next is approval of the minutes for September the 17th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion. I'll second.
Motion, second. Any discussion, further discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Our next agenda item is discussion items. First bullet is discussion regarding emergency powers.
So, Mr. Chairman, so I had this put on here when we was getting ready for Helene to come. You know, we reviewed the emergency planning and emergency power section of the ordinance. And there's some stuff in there that I didn't realize was in there that I'm not too fond of. It's in the backup material, but it pretty much, it lists actions that the county council can take. And most of it is reasonable and it makes perfect sense. But one that stood out to me was when you have a declaration of emergency, the county can enact the suspension or limitation upon the sale, dispensing, or transportation of alcoholic beverages, firearms, explosives, and combustibles. I don't believe because we have an emergency situation, your Second Amendment right goes away. That's probably when law-abiding citizens need it the most.
That's correct.
So, just to know, I'll make a motion in a minute, but I'd like to remove the firearms, explosives, and combustibles. Just for the simple fact, you know, explosives that can be like of a mass casualty in nature is already illegal. So I'd like to remove not just firearms, but explosives and combustibles, because gunpowder could be perceived or interpreted as combustibles. And then also on, there's like a bullet 8, the control of ingress and egress to and from disaster area. I understand that, but it goes on to say the movement of persons within the area and the occupancy of premises threatened. And then number 11 says the suspension or limitation of non-emergency activities and the prohibition of public assemblies, including the imposition of a curfew. Well, we still have a right to assemble, and that's type of language what a lot of places use during COVID to stop churches from assembling as well. So I would like to remove those two bullets completely. So I'll go ahead and make a motion, we have discussion on it. And my motion would be to remove in that section, this is per the backup material, section 10-275. Let's see here, Bravo, and then it's bullet 8. Under bullet 9, the words firearm, explosives, and combustibles. And bullet 11, and my motion is to direct staff, David Root, to draft those changes, and we can bring it back. Actually, we could probably just go straight to council because it's not too complex. Send it straight to full council for adoption.
I'll second that.
I tend to agree with you, Mr. Durham. I had number 9 circled, also had number 11 circled for discussion, and so you've already hit on the talking points for those. And, so we'll take a vote, all in favor of Mr. Root and redoing this and bringing it back to council?
Vote is 3-0.
And then along the same topic of emergency powers, you know, we went through Helene and God blessed us in the fact that we wasn't as affected as bad as our neighbors, but it was still pretty hard hit, and a lot of work went into that and a lot of lessons learned, I'm sure. And I listened to Scott Crine's presentation to the planning commission one meeting ago. It was very, very good, very thorough, and talking to Ms. Brock, the county's gonna have a post-action review coming up
Next Tuesday, sir.
next Tuesday. So what I like to do is for us to come together the first of the year, first quarter, as a committee, as like a workshop, and bring key staff that Ms. Brock determines, obviously Chief Crine and others. And I'd like to invite the administrators and mayors from the towns, let's come together to have a workshop, and let's discuss what went well, what we need to improve on, and then so we can kind of understand what resources we need to look to allocate to improve. That way, if, God forbid, you know, we ever have a tragedy like Western North Carolina had, we can be as use this as a learning opportunity to better prepare for that. And I'd just like to I'll make a motion to put that on the agenda for the first quarter, and we'll set that date when we set the meeting schedule in January.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Vote is 3-0.
One question I had about this, Mr. Root, you might can help me out here. This document, where did this document, did we draft this document up, or is it,
That's the emergency powers order?
Emergency
emergency powers?
Well, yeah, the county adopted this, obviously, I don't know when it was, whatever it did, but I recall it does mirror what was done with COVID in 2007, I think. So, during the COVID time period, all the county attorneys are putting out emergency ordinances, we're comparing what to do, and they kind of uniformly had these same powers in them. So, there's not a state statute that delineates it like this, but I think that's it's a template that a lot of folks are using. So I think it came from general use, but it certainly was adopted, written by the county, and put in place in 2007. And I know we've used it, I guess, during COVID, the tornado, and then Helene since I've been here for the last 9 years.
One thing I'd ask, I didn't see it in here, maybe you can point me to it. Is there any verbiage in here that directs the county as to how they interface with any federal regulations like FEMA? And where I'm coming from, you can't believe everything. You hear all the stories in Western North Carolina, how FEMA was there or FEMA wasn't there. There was no interactions between FEMA and the locals. Is there something we need to put in here as to how we interact with federal regulators?
I don't know that it's something that we would put in an ordinance. Scott,
Give
I'm
some
looking at you
guidance.
because is there anything that would help facilitate? I'm sorry, for the record, I'm talking to the Emergency Management Director, Scott Crine.
Scott Crine, Emergency Services Director. Nice to see you. As an ordinance, no, the actual emergency operation guide actually discusses how that goes. And unfortunately, every disaster, depending if it goes through, you would end up a lot of different. If it goes to nuclear is different than if you go natural disaster, than if you go terrorism. So you would end up having different lines the way you interface with the federal government. It is something that during this disaster, to give an example, we actually were requesting our rep and our direct line number from the state on Thursday night before everyone else was, because we got so much rain that first night. And we opened our emergency operations center. So I don't think we need to. If we need to, it's not gonna be just one scenario. We're gonna have to build that out because there are different avenues each time, for a disaster.
Or, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe just give the emergency management director the powers to interface it as needed?
Yes, sir, that would be good wording to, as needed with the state and federal government.
Let him be the point man?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That might be something, Mr. Root, we'd want to look at.
Mr. Miles?
Yeah.
Can I just suggest that we take, like, that's good topics, and that's stuff we can flush out in the workshop. And I imagine you have like emergency operating procedure manual book that's just all over, and that's been adopted. And we can, that's kind of good stuff we need to work through. and
I just
see if
didn't-
we can
I-
improve.
As bad as it is, I'd hate for there be a lot of confusion. There's already confusion when you have a disaster. But there needs to be somebody that they know is in charge, at least from the county, and can interface with the state or the feds.
Scott, have we had a problem with following NIMS? I mean, we generally get somebody in place.
We have not, and this goes back to our working relationship. We do it every drill, and we have the nuclear plant, and so we have to drill, and we have to do that, and so we've learned that interface a lot, because we're required to, unlike other counties. So that is, we naturally follow that incident command system, even through the EOC. You know, we always have new people, but it wouldn't be bad to reference that as people retire and things change, to have it set in stone to secure that need.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I add a recommendation since we're making amendments to the proposed new ordinance? We learned this year that FEMA does require that the county have written provision for reimbursement for county salaries for any employees, that everybody that is working under a disaster become an hourly employee rather than a salary employee. If you're an hourly employee, regardless of the numbers of hours that you work throughout the course of disaster management, all those funds are reimbursable by FEMA. At present, if you're a salaried employee, such as a division director, me, finance director, procurement director, we don't get any money reimbursed back for the hours that each employee works. If we could add that provision in, that once a declared disaster has been stated, that every salaried employee becomes an hourly employee, and that way we can track those hours worked for FEMA purposes.
I agree.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Miles? Mr. Root, is there any labor laws or issues with that?
It's usually the other way around, folks trying to put people on salary to avoid overtime. So, for the most part, no, it's not gonna be any impediment, and I maybe could dream up a case-by-case situation, but as a general rule, it wouldn't be.
Well, then I'll make that motion to Mr. Root to draft that, proposal as Ms. Brock stated.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
That's 3-0. Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Bell.
And any other discussion regarding emergency powers document? Okay. That's good discussion. All right, moving on is discuss tax district ordinance elements and related issues with respect to the creation of the car rent Shiloh Special Purpose Tax District for fire protection.
And this, Mr. Norman and I talked about putting it here, and then we can get the ordinance parameters set up and send to council as quickly as possible. As y'all know, the referendum or special election passed, was it 2,000, 1,000? Somewhere thereabout, overwhelmingly passed. So at this juncture, we're at the point for you all council to direct me to draft the ordinance. It goes to council, the 3 readings, and then they, depending on how y'all want to do the commission, and what we've talked about before in the recommended way, would be the initial board members appointed, and then the subsequent members or commission members elected via the general election. So it's really covering those topics. And I can list the topics, but I think, and Chief Christenberry, tell me if I'm wrong, you wanted it to essentially track with Kiwi. Has that changed any? Obviously, the millage is different.
Yes, sir. Kevin Christenberry, Fire Chief, Point Shallow. Yes, we back in 2005, when we had this ordinance drafted from the previous election back then, we modeled it after the written ordinance from Kiwi Fire Tax District, and so sort of keeping in line, with that one in terms of the commission being responsible for the budget and hiring and firing a fire chief.
And so if I could just run down these bullet items, most of them are covered from the Kiwi ordinance, but obviously the establishment of the tax district, y'all will do that by ordinance. Election is one part, the second part of the thing is y'all voting to enact it. The boundaries of the tax district, you can't alter those, those were put in the referendum. When they signed on to the petition, the boundaries were already established, so those will be incorporated into the resolution. The big part will be the, perhaps big part, the establishment of the commission. We don't necessarily have a commission to govern it. Within the petition, it was 5 commissioners, so you don't want to deviate from that. But getting them in place is, essentially the question I have for you all, to put in the ordinance. Recommendation would be initial 5 appointed by council on recommendation from Corinth Shiloh. I don't know, maybe the nonprofit board, something we can work in with that language. And then the next 5 at the general election. And you can talk about staggered terms, or you talk about 4 years. A lot of times what they'll do, if the whole board is elected at one time, the top, say, 3 vote getters will have 4-year terms. The bottom 2 vote getters will have 2-year terms, and that'll create the stagger. Everything after that will be 4 years. So there's that, filling of vacancies. Within the petition, and I don't think this is governing, and I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, but they wanted if there's a vacancy for it to remain open until the next general election. I think it should be similar, maybe mirror council vacancies. So if you have one outside of 180 days from the general election, then you do a special election. If it's within that time period, then you hold until the general election. Language like that makes sense. And then just like Kiwi, they do their budget, submit it for y'all's approval. It's capped at 25 mills. And that is, it's really pretty simple. I would include in there a means by which, if it comes to it, this is the process to increase that millage. If 25, like Kiwi did 3 or 4 years ago, I want to say, they eventually, they had stayed at 14.5 for a long time. They moved up to 17.5, and y'all approved that. So we put a mechanism in there to address that, and that's really the questions for the ordinance. So like I said, it kind of boils down to that commission appointment election term series of questions.
So will we have language in there for like when a vacancy is determined, like if you have a commissioner not show up for X number of meetings?
Yeah, and I will draft it very much like Kiwis, and that first, if y'all say, hey, let's get this on for December 3rd, which I think would be a good idea, then I'll have that in there, but obviously y'all can say, we want to tinker with everything, whatever. And I'll give you, as soon as I can get it out the door, I'll get it to you, so y'all have time to study it in advance of the December 3rd meeting.
And then I like staggered, that way they all come on at the same time, but you're gonna have them roll off 2 years, then 2 years. So will we just do like a paper ballot cast amongst the council, and then you count how many votes each one got to be the top?
Yeah, so for the first group, the appointed group, if we're sticking with the paradigm that I was suggesting, the first appointed group would just be from the date of appointment until the general election. And then that general election would be 4 to 5, they're all 5 replacement. And that's, the common way for the appointment, midterm kind of, so to speak.
I understand.
Appointment to carry over, and then the election commission.
So we'd appoint all 5 until the next general election, and then they would do like a municipal election, what is it called, for the initial election, top 5 vote getters in order.
You can split them up
We
and
have
based on
those
vote getters, establish their terms. Yeah.
So would it be till the next off-year general election that's coming up, or would it?
I think general election in November in 26.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you could call for it at another time.
I like general elections. Man, that makes sense to me, y'all.
Is there anything?
What
any other
about the 5 that we're thinking about? Say, the county is gonna, council will be appointing those.
And they will be all at large, so y'all will have to join together to appoint them. Obviously, it's within this particular tax district. But we'll get the ordinance up for the next meeting. I also have to do a resolution to publish the results of the election. And then I could probably use that same questionnaire form and get the folks who, the nonprofit is interested in recommending and getting those folks lined up for y'all's consideration.
Did the referendum, did it spell out when people signed a 5-member board?
It did.
Do the members have to live in the district?
Yes, sir.
When I say district, in the fire district.
Can we get a map, a GIS map of the district for the next meeting? And so we'll pass the ordinance of December 3rd. We might could do the second reading, special meeting we got in
On the sixth.
December 6th, and then do the final reading, first meeting in January.
Okay.
And then we'd appoint, will we appoint at that third reading, or?
You can appoint right after that ordinance is approved.
Do you need a motion to?
Now, I got it. I'm gonna bring essentially as modified, Saturday, the Kiwi ordinance for Corinth Shiloh, to you all on December 3rd. For your consideration, I'll get it to you as quick as I can so you can study it and go from there.
Y'all have any concerns?
Yeah, I've got a question. Mr. Christenberg, you're supposed to have, some applications and, resumes of people that are wanting to be on there. So far, I have 3. How many do you have?
Thanks for the question, Mr. Hart. I sent an email to all 5 council members and carbon copy, Amanda, Mr. Root, and Jessica, I believe, Jennifer, sorry. The 5 questionnaires along with the information that the 5 individuals gave me to present to you guys. So the email is probably sent around 2 o'clock, 2:30 this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the reason I don't have it.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it
I
since.
haven't read it either.
I have a copy, I can give it to you.
Well, I'll take it.
But they do have 5 recommended folks.
And I've gotten a few, and I forwarded Jennifer, and I don't know if it's all matching the same 5 or if there's any differences, but we need to
I'll look and see.
send those out to you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I hadn't read this letter yet. I was on the road, but this is good. It's helpful.
Any other discussion? So,
I'm reading
Mr.
the
Root, you
ordinance.
got the lead,
Yes, sir.
and you'll bring to us, what, December 3rd,
To full council.
full
Yes.
council?
Yes, sir.
That's my original.
If you got it on here, I can get it if you need it. Just let you keep it, I'll get it off here.
All right, next, discussion item is regarding the Fire Service Advisory Commission.
Mr. Mize, so I apologize, I wanted to get a document to present to the committee, but I just did not have enough time to get it fleshed out. I've been reviewing ordinances lately, and this one stands out that there was ordinance added for the current commission in like 11 or 12. And there was a previous ordinance that was on the books from 7. I feel like should have been removed when this one was passed. But then looking at it, there's I think some best practices from both of them we can merge together. I would just like to make a motion that y'all give me permission to work with Mr. Root to draft a document to bring back to this committee the first quarter, and we can have discussion on it for moving forward.
I'll second that.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
And then, the last one here is discussion regarding the Clemson Health Clinic. And, apparently we're gonna take a field trip here shortly to the Clemson Health Clinic, just right around the corner here, and be gone for about 45 minutes, and then we'll come back and continue discussion regarding that health clinic.
Y'all fine with us just going on, or would you like to do a discussion beforehand, or just handle it when we get?
Totally up to you, sir.
I say we go that way, and we'll have as much time as we need. Do we need to just leave the meeting open?
Yeah, so the meeting's open, so we're still in a meeting, and so the only agenda topic is this, so I know we're traveling over there, just, if you could travel in separate cars or whatever. A little nitpicky, but if you could, when we get over there, then just discuss the library, storage issues when we get there, and then come back, but the meeting will stay open until we adjourn it, like we did.
Okay, we'll reconvene here in the council chambers. On the discussion regarding the Clemson Health Clinic. Ms. Brock, the only big question I've got is who is gonna put the action plan together to, facilitate that project over there? Getting the records out, deciding what's gotta be destroyed, what's not gonna be destroyed, what's gotta be kept and such as that.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I believe it will take a team, as indicated in the off-site meeting. There are divisions that are not directly under me and my supervision that have records in the facility. Elected officials and appointed officials both have records. And I will take it upon myself to reach out to those elected and appointed officials to review and do an inventory on what has to be kept and what needs to be kept, even if it's not legally necessary, such as the old record books that we were reviewing in room 2A over there. And then we'll come up with a plan and a cost estimate for council consideration. If appropriate, I'd like to come up with 2 alternatives. That way, if one is not ironclad, we have the second to look into.
Fine with 3, whatever 5
Yes, sir.
options you come up with.
Okay.
So we need a motion to direct staff to bring back options. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
That is 3-0.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. Do you have a specific time frame that you're looking at here?
Sometime after the first of the year.
We'll check with the council clerk once the new calendar is approved and the committee meetings are established, and we'll work to get that on the first meeting if possible.
And, after you bring a draft, we may have to have a workshop and just sit down together at the table and, look at it.
Hopefully, we can come up with some options for that. I really appreciate just the entire committee taking the time to review issues that, kicking the can down the road, so to speak, we have not been able to address in an efficient fashion. I think this is a great first step. I think this will be
Well, I
great for
think
the.
in order to make it work, after we get an action plan together and assign owners for it, for each, I'll call section of documents, we really need a commitment from them and a
Yes,
due
sir.
date. A hard commitment and a hard due date. Otherwise, you know what'll happen? It'll just drift. It'll continue to drift, because it's, I never had been over there and looked at that, and that's kind of overwhelming.
Yes, sir, it is.
But, that's what we'll need.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think you almost stole my words. This needs to be expedited. When we get a plan, it needs to be put in action.
I agree with you, Mr. I do. Any other discussions? Any other questions? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.